Hi guys, King Wizard here with my first ever real-life deck profile, I guess. And this is going to be on my Chaos Zombie deck. Now, this isn't identical to the one that I made in the video, in my previous video, or even the one where I did DN duels with it. Mainly because I don't have all of the cards for that variant, and a lot of the more optimal cards are pretty expensive. Like Galaxy Cyclone is like a $30 single, and I refuse to pay $30 for a single card, unless it's going to be like a top tier deck. And this isn't that. So, and one final thing to note, I am running a proxy in this for Charge of the Light Brigade, and when it comes up, I'll be sure to mention it. Oh, and also, the extra deck is not as optimal as I would like it to be. So when I get to the extra deck, I'll show some of my certain cards that I'd take out for more optimal cards. So I'm just gonna go ahead and quit rambling and get into it. For the Chaos Monsters, I have 1 BLS, 2 Chaos Sorcerer, and 2 Light Pulsar Dragon. I feel 2 Light Pulsar Dragon is fine, and, you know, Dark Flare Dragon wouldn't work in this deck because it is a level 5. For the Zombie Monsters, I have triple Zombie Master, triple Mizuki, triple Plague Spreader, triple Destiny Hero Malicious, and lastly, 2 Goblin Zombies. Now, the zombie lineup is pretty standard, in my opinion, for most zombie decks. The only one that may not be is Goblin Zombie, especially for mill-based decks. It may not be pretty standard. But, you know, the main reason why I'm running him is because, well, ultimately just because I don't have more optimal cards to run over him, and he's not really that bad in the deck. The fact that he's a zombie means he can be revived with Mizuki if you need to, or Zombie Master. And he's a level 4, and he's dark. So, you know, he offers as a dark target, and he can also, you know, make rank 4 plays. And also, lastly, if you need to, he can fetch a Zombie Master if it's necessary. So yeah, not the greatest card, but not the worst either. For the Lightsworn, we have triple Raiden, triple Lumina, triple Lila. Now, I believe in the variant that I did the video on, the other deck profile, the one online, I was running 1 Lila and 2 Effect Veiler. Now, the reason for this was because I felt like the deck needed more an effect negation than anything. And Lila didn't serve much purpose. You know, she kind of took up a normal summon, which really sucks because, you know, more optimal normal summons could be taken up by something like Lumina or Raiden or Zombie Master. But with this version, since I don't have Galaxy Cyclone, I really need some way to get rid of potential floodgates. And, you know, MST isn't something that is really optimal, and, you know, Lila's there. So, yeah. And then lastly, for the monsters, I have 1 Curry Bandit and 1 Magical Merchant. Originally, the Magical Merchant started out as a proxy for 2nd Curry Bandit, but after a lot of testing with Curry Bandit, I really don't like the card as much as I originally did. On paper, it seems to be fine in the deck, because the deck does run 6 spells and 4 traps, so there's 10 cards total that it could grab if they get milled. You know, it's 30 monster, 10 spell trap deck, and so, you know, Curry Bandit can grab a decent amount of cards if one happens to get milled. But like I said about Lila, the fact that it takes up a normal summon is really unfortunate. And not only that, but if you have to use its effect, it doesn't stay on board for that. So you're taking up a normal summon that's not even going to be, and that's not even establishing board presence in the same turn. So it's really kind of a slow card. And once it actually mills, it doesn't serve any other purpose other than it being a dark target. Now, it is a very easy dark target, but other than that, it's really useless in the grave. You know, it's a fiend, so he can't come back with Zombie Master or Mizuki, and he's only level 3, so even if he could come back, the most you can do with him is potentially go for a rank 3, which I don't run any rank 3s. You know, Dante could be a potential card that would be ran, but I don't even have the money for a Galaxy Cyclone. I definitely don't have the money for a Dante. But I feel like Magical Merchant has a little bit more of an edge over Curry Bandit. In my opinion, it could be just as slow. And it could be, your opponent may not read the fact that it's a Magical Merchant, but they could read it as something else, so they could still equally play around it in the same exact way. The fact that the deck runs Lightsworns and the fact that I'm setting means that it could be a Raikou, and I feel like a lot of people would know that, or would think that, so they'd try to play around it. So, even still, I don't feel like either of these cards are really that amazing, but, you know, they're not terrible. Increase the monster count, increase the dark and light count, and, you know, all around, they're not terrible cards in the deck, but they're just probably the slower cards in the deck. Onto the spells, we have Charge of the Light Brigade, and this is the proxy for a second Charge of the Light Brigade. Now, I chose Mass Charge just because it has Charge in the name, and the only reason why I don't have a second Charge of the Light Brigade is because when I built this deck, it was at 1, and I really didn't ever expect it to come back to 2 or 3. I'm not saying it's going to come back at 3, but who knows. So I didn't even bother to pick up a second copy, and I still haven't gotten around to getting a second copy, so that's just a proxy. Also, I don't feel like this deck runs enough Lightsworns in order for it to justify running Solar Recharge, and on top of that, it would be kind of tight on deck space for Solar Recharge and Charge of the Light Brigade, and if I had to run one, I'd rather prefer to run Light Brigade. Mainly because it mills and searches, whereas, you know, if you're drawing, you don't know exactly what you're going to get. When you're searching, you do. For the rest of the spells, we have 2 Mass Change Second. Now, I do run Dark Law in the extra deck, so there is a reason for it. That, and it offers it as a discard outlet. So one of my favorite things that I've done with Mass Change Second is it really kind of can fix brick hands. Some of the issues that this deck has is if you open really bad, where you don't have any cards to mill, and say, like, one of the perfect situations that I opened with, where I didn't have any cards that can mill, but what I did open with was 1 Mass Change, 1 Plague Spreader, and 1 Mizuki. So what I did was just normal summon the Plague Spreader, activate Mass Change Second, ditch Mizuki for the cost, and then get out a Dark Law. So what's that is essentially doing is filling up your grave, which is what you really need to do, with 2 cards that are really necessary to be in the grave, and establishing a board presence with something that is pretty devastating to a lot of decks. So it's really good in this deck. For the rest of the spells, we have 1 Foolish Burial and 1 Dark Hole. I'm running Dark Hole mainly because I can't afford a Raigeki. That's it for the spells. For the rest of the deck, the traps, we have 1 Solemn Warning, 1 Torrential Tribute, 1 Compulse, and 1 Breakthrough Skill. Now, if I had a full playset of Breakthrough Skills, I would definitely take out the Torrential and the Compulse for a full playset of Breakthrough Skills, just because it's, you know, the fact that it can offer effect negation from the grave is great. So even if it happens to get milled, it's not, you know, terrible. So on to the extra deck. I have 2 Dark Laws because I want both of the Mass Chain Seconds to be able to be live. For the Synchros, I have 1 Void Ogre Dragon, 1 Crimson Blader, 1 Stardust Dragon, 1 Scrap Dragon, 1 Red Dragon Arcfiend, 2 Michaels, and 1 Leo. Now, if I had 2 Beals and a Black Rose Dragon, I would definitely take out 1 Michael for the Black Rose, a Red Dragon Arcfiend, and a Stardust Dragon, probably, for the 2 Beals. So these 3 are what I'd take out for the Synchros. Now, for the rest of the extra deck, we have 1 Photon Strike Balancer, 1 Gaga Cowboy, 1 Maystroke, 1 Steel Storm Roach, and 1 number 80 Rhapsody and Berserk. Now, I realize that the extra deck isn't as optimal as I'd like it to be, obviously, because these are pretty old. Well, Rhapsody's kind of new, but for the most part, these are pretty old Xyz monsters, namely these 2. On a local level, which is probably where I play this deck the most, Steel Storm Roach isn't bad, because Infernoids. Infernoids are relatively budget friendly. You know, they only have like 1 card that's extremely expensive, and it is like a $30 card, I think. $20 to $30 card, and that's Harmadic, I think. And so that card being at 3 means that it's probably around $100 to $150 deck. So it is relatively budget friendly, not as much as some of the others could be, but you know, on a local level, Infernoids are probably going to be a lot more popular than anything. So Steel Storm Roach isn't terrible in this deck. Now, these 2 are definitely the ones that I'd take out if I had more optimal cards. I definitely would like to run a... Well, I wish I could run Lava Ball Chain, but now that that's banned, this deck did get a tiny bit slower. But another card that I'd consider taking out is Rhapsody and Berserk, because now that Lava Ball Chain is gone, I don't like this card as much, because the main reason why I liked this card in the past was because a lot of the times Lava Ball Chain would be dead on the field. And if I had the option to, I could turn him in, that dead Lava Ball Chain, into a 3000 beat stick with Rhapsody, and I love that. So now I really don't feel like he is good enough. His banishing effect is pretty good. It could be good against like turn 2 against Necros if they don't happen to fill their grave up like crazy. You can happen to banish 2 of their cards and prevent a Valk, but chances are they're going to have more than just 2. So it's pretty meh. I'd probably consider leaving in Cowboy. But yeah, and like my online versions, I do not have a side deck built for this deck. I don't know what to do for a side deck for a deck that mills. Especially one where I can't even afford the good, you know, the better cards that mill, like Galaxy Cyclone. Or not cards that mill, but, you know, cards that activate, that you can activate from the grave. And something that I've thought a lot about, and I've tested out different builds that happen to run, well, that I've designed to pretty much shift the focus of the deck. I had ran cards like Armageddon Knight and Dark Grepher, and, you know, general cards that you might see in a slower zombie build. And the point of that was to shift the overall mechanic of the deck. But the problem with that is that it still gets hurt by the same floodgates that this deck does. And on top of that, the normal zombie build got a hell of a lot slower with the Lava Ball Chain ban. And it's really unfortunate, and, you know, if you've seen my other videos, you've seen my opinion on the Lava Ball Chain ban. I feel like that's one of the most unnecessary bans to have happened, and honestly, I am kind of expecting another ban list to happen before Worlds, or not before, but after. it's something that could happen. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and quit rambling and in the video. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please thumb up the video. Please leave a comment. If you want to get in contact with me, you can just send me a message over YouTube, or send me a message on Pojo. I do frequent Pojo a lot. I'm most active probably on the Battery Man threads. But I am on Pojo pretty much on a daily basis, so, you know, if you frequent there and you prefer to message me over there, go ahead. I have no problem with that. Thanks for watching.